Welcome to those that are just joining. We've got Niamh here today for our Meet the Teachers series, and we're really excited to present her with some of the questions that you guys have sent in via the community page. Without further ado, I'm going to ask Niamh our first question, which Jane has sent in. Thank you, Jane. And this question is about Niamh's favourite places to practice. Jane says, where is Niamh's favourite place to practice yoga and why? And she adds that you were outside for a nurture class one morning this week, and she said it looked like a great place to be.
Yeah, thanks for that, Jane. And yeah, I was outside. I'm down in the south of Portugal this week, so I'm getting to practice outside, which is super nice, in the quiet and in the nature. And I think, just to answer that question, for me, it's less where I'm practicing and more who I'm practicing with and when the time of day is I'm practicing. So like, where I would say in front of the sun, directly as the sun is rising, is like one of my favorite places and times to practice, like first thing in the morning or as the sun is setting in the evening. Just because I find that while practicing while the sun is rising, it gives me energy to start the day with. And then practicing while the sun is setting, it's almost like a bridge into the evening and the nighttime, where I can know that my day is maybe coming to an end and I can rest then in the nighttime. And I think I've practiced in so many places around the world. And when I think back to my favorite places, it's always been when the sun has been rising or setting. So yeah, definitely related to that. And then around community and around people that are also practicing and that are also maybe even just taking part in a yoga class, or even if we're not in a yoga class, just surrounded by like-minded friends and community. So yeah.
Fantastic. That was such a beautiful image that kind of came to me as you described practicing with the sun. I love that. And actually that ties us in with another question which Carrie sent in fact. I wondered, as you were speaking, whether some of these things that you've encountered in nature as you've been practicing outside tie into what you bring into your practice and the way that you teach. Carrie asked, or says rather, I would love to know how you come up with such wonderful visualizations for your yoga nidra classes. They always inspire me and take me just where I need to go. Where do you get the inspiration and how do you write them down? And I wondered, as I was listening to you, whether maybe you pulled little bits here and there from your surroundings.
Yeah, definitely. You're completely right. And I think I'm a very visual person, and if I'm ever learning something, like we all have different learning styles, right? And if I'm learning something, a new language or whatever it might be, I always need to have it written down so I can see it. Like if someone says something to me, it will sometimes go in one ear and out the other. And if it's written down and I can take that visual aspect to it in, then I remember it on a much deeper level. So in regards to my inspiration for the yoga nidra classes, it's definitely from places that I've traveled to and experiences that I've had that have stuck with me, maybe like when I was living in Brazil in the jungle, and I had an experience of like being inside this cave, and little pockets of these memories and experiences that I've had then weave into the stories and poetry that I write. And I always try and find inspiration from even like the everyday moments when I'm taking a walk just around my local area, and the people that I see when I'm doing that day-to-day walk, and the journey that they've been on as well. So I don't know about you, but I love like sitting down and just people watching and watching the world go by. And I always think about the journeys that those people have been on to get where they came to today, and then how that weaves into my own personal experience. I carry all the time around with me a notebook and pen, so I'm always like scribbling things down and just taking in bits of my day down on paper. And then when I come to planning my yoga nidra classes, I'll go back through like bits of poetry that I've written, or like bits of journaling that I've done in the past, and weave that into the class plan. So yeah.
That's beautiful. Just in relation to what you were saying, I think it's really nice. It's a really nice mindful practice, isn't it, to take a pen and paper out with you and write down things that stand out. It's almost like taking a picture. Do you kind of shape those words into, like, do you use those words as kind of poetry? Do you draw pictures? I wonder if you could talk a little bit more about the things that you've kind of written down, or is it just notes that you make along the way that you can refer back to later on?
Yeah, it's definitely more towards poetry rather than drawing pictures. Recently, I've been thinking a lot about creativity and how we all are creative in our own ways, right? And in school, teachers in like art class will often say like some people are more creative than others, or we might be tarnished by what somebody said when we were a teenager or a child, that, oh, you're not good at art, or you're not creative. And then that goes into how we believe, what we believe about ourselves as adults. And for me, I definitely had that to a certain extent, because in art class, I wasn't like the best at painting or drawing. And I think my pictures of a person was like the little stick figures with the sun head and the lines of hair going off their head. But as an adult now, I've really learned that we can be creative in our own individual ways, whether that be through dancing, or whether it be through writing, or whether it be through your yoga practice. You know, there's so many other ways to be creative. And one of those for me is through poetry, and I'll tend to write like little pieces of poetry from those moments throughout the day, when I get time. Yeah,
That's great. And I think that ties us in nicely with a question that Heather sent in. She's referred to the hobbies focused couple yoga sessions we've been having recently, and she said, do you have any hobbies that you would like to share with us? I suppose you've done a little of that already, but if there's anything like off the page, off the mat, that you spend your time, that you're passionate about, that you want to share with us, we'd love to hear.
Yeah, of course. I need to join one of those hobbies cuppa yoga sessions. I would love to hear as well about everyone's hobbies, because I think that in itself, like as an adult, when you take the time to delve into a new hobby or try something new, it's such a brave thing to do, I think. And something that I really made a commitment to myself was when I was traveling in each different country in South America, I would learn the dance of that country. So the first thing I would do when I would arrive would be go to a dance class that had originated from that place. And I kept that up. Now I've moved to Lisbon, I've kept it up, kept tango up from Buenos Aires, because that was really the dance that I felt the most connected to. And I go to weekly tango classes here in Lisbon. And that inspires my practice so much, inspires so many other parts of my life as well. And learning languages as well for me is something that really opens my mind and challenges me in ways that nothing else does. So yeah, at the moment, tango and learning Portuguese are definitely the two hobbies that I'm and learning guitar as well. But that's quite a slow process, but I'm committed to keep going with it.
That's so cool. Carrie says in the comments section, I'd love to learn to dance, and I would as well. I find I'm very uncoordinated actually when it comes to dancing, which is quite surprising given that I'm a yoga teacher. But do you find that it feels quite different doing yoga compared to dancing, or is there quite a lot of similarity when you get used to certain movements?
Yeah, there is a lot of differences for sure, but I think sometimes, you know, if we're in a flow in vinyasa, you just, as a yoga teacher, it's not like Ashtanga, for example, where there's the set asana practice. Vinyasa is just a flow, right? So you're stepping to the front of the mat, and dance for me is that as well. Like it's not a rigid practice. Yes, obviously salsa and tango have these specific steps, but I think we can all dance even if it's just stepping to one side and the other side and doing a little shake. And I think if you're moving your hips, then that's a dance in itself. And
Dancing. I love that. And also Carrie says stick with the guitar, 100%. That's a really exciting new thing that you've gotten into recently by the sounds of it. You'll have to share some videos of songs that you've mastered down the line if you feel called to.
yeah.
Got one more question, and I can't believe that the 15 minutes is quite close to being up. We've got 3 or 4 minutes left. And that's just enough time, I think, for you to answer Martin's lovely question. He says, you often try to bring elements of spirituality into your classes, and yoga is a spiritual practice at its core. What does being spiritual mean for you? And how does that look in your day-to-day life?
Thank you, Martin, for that question. Such a deep and thought-provoking question. Being spiritual to me really means practicing non-judgment and being present in everything that I do. So, or at least trying to, right? Because the mind is so easily distracted by what we could have done yesterday, what we should be doing instead of this yoga practice, instead of speaking and relating to friends. And I think for me, that presence when you're talking to a friend or a family member, and really having a deep listening to what they're saying rather than anticipating what I'm going to say in the next instance or how I'm going to respond with my own experience, and just really meeting them on where they are and making them feel seen and heard, and then letting the conversation flow. And I think our relationships are one of the most important reflections and mirrors of how we're feeling in ourselves too. And by cultivating presence in relationships, I think that is a really powerful way to grow in ourselves and to grow in depth in that relationship with that person as well. And then as well as that, just I think really being kind to myself and meeting myself where I'm at and honoring myself in this journey, and knowing that, okay, yes, there could be so much more that I could be doing, and yes, there is so much more, but actually by taking every day step by step and with time, a really important practice to honor where I'm at and honor where I'm in at myself. So yeah, I think that's, if I could say, 2 main ways.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. I felt inspired as I was listening to you speaking in that way. I think it is so important to show up for ourselves, to show up in relation to others, just to be as present as we can be. And yoga keeps bringing us back to that, to our kind of base. It grounds us, doesn't it? Thank you so much for sharing. It was really, really inspiring to listen to you talk a little bit more about your hobbies, about your passions, about the things that you hold dear. And I'm sure the rest of the community will be looking forward to checking out this recording. Thank you to those of you that are joining later on in your own time. Do let us know if you've got any other follow-up questions for me. And hopefully we'll see the next Meet the Teacher. Carrie says thank you, Niamh, as well. Thank you, Niamh.
Thank you. No, thank you, Orly, for the questions, and thank you everyone for sending them in. It was great to chat, and looking forward to seeing you all in class this week. All right, thanks. Have a good day, everyone. Bye.